Kasikorn Research expects the fourth quarter exports to contract 4.7% in the fourth quarter. The full year growth will be 16.7%. This scenario is possible if flooding recedes within 2 months and industrial zones in Samut Prakan and Chhat Cheong Sao are not affected. In the worst-case scenario, when flooding persists until year-end and industrial zones in Chhat Cheong Sao and Samut Prakan are inundated to the extent many facilities cannot resume production by the year-end, in this case, the fourth quarter export growth would contract 9.1%, bringing the full-year growth rate to 15.5%. Kasikorn Research earlier estimated 2011 export growth between 15.5 to 17.9%. The authorities expect to drain the water by mid-December.
Fewer farmers than expected has turned up at the government's rice subsidy scheme, pledging on 62,000 tons since it started in October 7. According to Monday data, over 6,800 farmers have mortgaged their rice to the government, according to Finance Minister Tirashai Puwanatnaranuban after a meeting with the Bank of Agriculture and Agricultural Cooperatives, or BAAC. He said that the rice volume is lower than expected, largely because of the severe flooding. The government has lent 920 million baht to those farmers for pawning their rice. The farmers can redeem their rice later from the government, but they never do. It has set up 218 trading points to accept rice from farmers in 33 provinces. Only unmilled rice with moisture not over 15% is eligible for pledging, while promised to buy different types of rice at rates higher than market prices. The government will put in place a policy encouraging farmers in the flood-hit areas to plant only 2 crops a year instead of 3. That would minimize losses of severe flooding. Farmers whose fields are completely inundated on a frequent basis should switch to other crops such as oil palms by planting them on the banks of canals. Several canals will be dug in the plains so farmers can grow palms on higher spillways. Critics claim that the rice pledging program will benefit only a few local farmers, but many farmers in exporting countries such as Vietnam or India. They will gain from rising price of the rice in the global market. The BAAC has allowed flood victims to suspend debt installments for 3 years. Each can get a new loan of up to 100,000 baht to rehabilitate their devastated farms. Those who's lost their lives will have their debts forgiven, and their families will receive compensation worth 10,000 baht from the BAAC. If their house is destroyed, the bank will pay compensation of 20,000 baht. So far, on estimate, 400,000 families who are also customers of the BAAC have been affected by the flood, while 5.1 million rai of rice paddies have been damaged. 450,000 rai of other crops have been washed away, and 110,000 head of livestock have perished, and 47,000 rai of fish farms have been washed out.
Housing demand is expected to plunge in the near term, particularly for low-rise projects in flood-stricken areas such as Chayapruk, Ratchapruk, Bang Baw Thong, and Rangsit. DBS Vickers Securities Thailand said Thailand's flood crisis would chiefly affect Property Perfect, Land and House, Quality House, and Pruksa Real Estate, which have low-rise developments in those areas. Meanwhile, LPN development could benefit the most, given that fears of severe floods recurring in Bangkok in the future could sway demand towards condominiums in the city. And the problem could be compounded by the fact that the fourth quarter normally sees the most new launches of housing developments, the Security House said. After the floods in the outskirts of Bangkok affected a large number of low-rise housing projects, DBS expects pre-sales and transfers to tumble in the current fourth quarter as the floods show no signs of subsiding. Pruksa Real Estate Director and Chief Business Officer, ประเสริฐแต่ดุลยสถิต accepted that the company had to revise its pre-sale and revenue target in the current final quarter of the year. สมสกุล หลิมพุทธพันธ์ Assistant Managing Director of Plus Property Company, the property management arm of San City, said flooding in Bangkok would also encourage many to look for a second home in resort cities such as Hua Hin and Pattaya. During October 21st to the 25th, between last Friday and this Tuesday, as the floods reached Bangkok, the company was approached by more than 150 clients demanding short rental contracts in Hua Hin. For a short stay of less than 3 months, they were looking for units with monthly rents of 25,000 to 55,000 baht. Plus Property has also witnessed increasing demand for rental units in Pattaya. There should be spur in residential demand in Hua Hin and other resort destinations now that they realize the necessity of a second home for refuge. Somsakun believes that more projects in the cities will be launched, and projects with systematic management and permission for pets will be in high demand. An agency for real estate affairs estimated residential damage at 74 billion baht, or 25% of the value of flooded properties. So far, about 330,000 houses were flooded and another 170,000 are at risk.